Welcome today to my YouTube channel. Thank you for being with me today. For those of you who do not know, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I've been exploring the Catholic faith. I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things over the past few months. You can go back and watch my reaction videos and stuff. But I wanted to share with y'all, my husband and I, we signed up for a Bible study. It's about parables of Jesus. And so yesterday was our first group session. It was really awesome. My husband was the only man, and there were probably at least 40 women there. And it's so funny because yesterday morning I went to a group of ladies in my own church who they make quilts for people in the community, and I told my brother that I'm going to be with a bunch of old women, and he's like, "You are an old woman." And sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget I'm 50. I'm 50 something. And so I am one of those older women now that sews and goes to Bible studies. But it was really good. So I wanted to share with y'all some of the things from it. So it's going to be a 6-week class, and they have these little books. I don't know if this is something anyone else out there has done or you're a part of right now, but it breaks it down into different lessons and gives you different parables to read. And so like next week we'll go in and I will have read like 6 different parables and prepared and have stuff to discuss. So I thought, since I'm going to be studying the parables for the next 6 weeks, I thought I could share what I'm learning and what's coming to me. And if there's anything that y'all could add and would like to discuss as well, because parables are really awesome in that they're so open-ended, and depending on where we are in our own life, like that is what we read into it. You can read a parable when you are 15, 30, 50, 80, and the same parable is going to speak to you differently at the different stages of your life. I love that about the parables. So I'm going to share just a few things from the book, and then I want to talk about the parable that I read today about the sower and the harvest, and just kind of how it relates to our lives. So the goal of parables is to persuade hearers to see the world, themselves, God, and other people in strikingly new ways, and then put these changed perceptions into practice. So it's not just to, read these stories, and these are the things that Jesus taught about, but it's to ponder on them and to sit with it and to think about, how does this relate to my life? Help me to have eyes to see and ears to hear what the Spirit would have me know today for me. So they are open-ended in the sense that their meaning is elusive. They're meant to be pondered rather than resolved, and they reveal new insights and applications even after many hearings. So a lot of times, we want to look at a parable, read it, and figure it out and understand it and, dissect it and think about the history of it. And all of that kind of stuff is important and it's good. But if we're just focused on that, then we miss the deeper meaning of the parable. We miss being able to allow the parable to sink into our heart to teach us what we need specifically for our own life. And that's the awesome thing about like sitting at a round table with other people, being able to talk about these parables, because each of us were able to bring to it our own experience and our own eyes and what we see from it and what we receive from it. And it's all so different for each one of us. There's no absolutely right, correct answer to it because it's so personal. So it says, I wanted to read this one thing that I thought was really good. Parables are like thresholds, each of them inviting us to enter and experience God's kingdom. Because pretty much all the parables, like that is what he's trying to teach us. It's about God's kingdom. Each one gives us a different view of God's will for creation. As we study the parables, we strive not just for accuracy of knowledge, but also depth of insight. They compel us and empower us to think, teach, and act like Jesus did. They awaken within us a desire to accept this new vision of life and to participate wholeheartedly in God's reign. So I'm excited to be able to learn about these parables. I mean, I've learned about these parables my whole life. But like I said, I'm in a different season and stage in life right now than I was the last time that I maybe read and studied these parables and had discussions about it. And it's also given me an opportunity with my husband, because we talked about we're going to do our own individual reading and then we'll talk about it together. Because anytime you discuss something with another person, like I said, it brings up new thoughts and new ideas. And anytime two people are discussing God's words and they're seeking the Spirit, I mean, it just brings you together, and the Spirit is able to speak to us. And that's one thing that I love about the Spirit, is that, and so many times whenever I'm talking, is I'm receiving just as much as what I'm speaking. Like, because they're not always my words. And so the Spirit is able to teach me through my own words. I love that. So the sower and the harvest is in Mark chapter 4, verse 1 through 9. And this is where Jesus, I'm going to just share what the parable is and then share some other things. So I hope you stay with me during this. And think about yourself. Think about where you are in your life. Which ground are you? Because it's all about each of us individually and where we are and what we can receive from it, and what do we need to do to open ourselves up to God's word. So, and he began to teach beside the sea. Such a very large crowd gathered around him that he got into a boat on the sea and sat there, while the whole crowd was beside the sea on the land. He began to teach them many things in parables, and in his teaching he said to them, "Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. Other seed fell into good soil and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said, let anyone with ears to hear listen." I would love to know at this moment in the comments what that brought up for you. any insights, any thoughts, anything that came to your mind as you heard those words about yourself, about me, about people around you. Just what were your thoughts and insights that the Spirit brought into your mind? So I love using AI with my scriptures, because sometimes it can give me insights to different things that I don't that I don't always think about. And it mentioned that symbolically water represents the spirit and the land represents flesh. And so it's pretty significant that Jesus Christ, that he got onto the boat and went into the water, symbolically representing being in the spirit, and the people were on the land, in the flesh. Now, I also understand and recognize that him going out into the boat and onto the water, it was able to carry his voice further. So there's also that aspect as well. But whenever you look deeper into meanings of things, and then the way AI brought that, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. So as I've been sitting here, the book, it gives you different questions to ponder and to think about, and to dive into this parable and how it relates to me, how it relates to you, how it relates to our lives today. During the time that Jesus, he shared this parable with the people, they, were on the Sea of Galilee. They were farmers, so they understood gardening. They understood planting seeds. And if you plant a seed here, they understood the growth of seeds and everything. And the beautiful thing about parables is a lot of times, it's telling a story, it's painting a picture, and you're able to look outside yourself at this story that is being told. And it's usually about other people, the situations outside of ourselves. And so we're able to receive, we're able to hear and to listen to what is being taught without getting defensive. Because if he came straight up and was like, okay, so y'all are this and this and this, and you have a hard heart, and you have these different things, and pointing his finger, then people will immediately put up a defense mechanism, because they don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear the things about ourselves. We don't want to hear that we have a hard heart, or that we have a stony ground, or that we're not receptive to something, and that we don't have eyes to hear, and we don't have, these different things. Like, we get very defensive. But when you come in with a story and a picture that can relate to anybody, if you have the eyes to hear, if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you're able to hear deeper into it, because your heart is open and you're able to see yourself in the words that he's saying. And, he's not trying to be personal and point fingers, yet at the same time, those who are open to it can hear and recognize. And that's when the little pinpricks will get us and be like, oh, he is talking about me. And where am I? What kind of ground, is that word coming into? Is it hard? Is it stony? Is it distracted by all of the things of the world? And, does it just get weeds grow around it and just suffocate it? It just makes you think of just, where are you in your own life? So while all these seeds have the capacity to grow into grain-producing stalks, they're prevented from achieving their potential by the environment into which they are planted. It makes me also think about just coming into this world. We're all these little seeds. We're all these come from little seeds. We're all these little seeds that are planted in this world where we are planted. Some of us are planted into families where they are hard. They have hard hearts because of generations of hard-hearted fathers and mothers. And it teaches the children to be hard. But God has given all of us the light of Christ within us to know good and evil, to know the difference between the things that bring us closer to light and closer to darkness. And so it's not an excuse. It's not, because we're all planted where we're planted. But we can have compassion. We can recognize whenever we see people who have very hard hearts, or who are stony, or who are just caught up in so many cares of this world. We can have compassion for people and understand that not everybody was planted in good soil. And we can be patient with them, and we can maybe offer our love, because we are not the savior of the world. We cannot fix everyone. We cannot fix everyone's soil around us, but we can offer our tools. We can give our love. We can wrap our arms around people. We can do what the Spirit leads us to do to help people to get their soil fertile, to where they can be open. But just like it says in this parable, sometimes those seeds that fall on that rocky ground, Satan just comes immediately before it even has a chance to be open to truth. Satan just comes and he just eats it away. And especially you can see that in the world today, that there are a lot of people whose hearts are just so very hard. And it can be very difficult. But we just have to recognize and realize that God has everybody. His view, his perspective, his understanding of all of this is so much greater than ours. And the things that we get so hung up on and is just we just take so seriously, we take things so seriously. And God is it's really not that serious. Many things is just not that serious. It's not that big of a deal. But we make things such a big deal because of our own understanding or our lack of understanding. And so sometimes we just have to step back and allow people to be where they are and just pray for people, pray for the angels, pray for, just pray that other people their hearts will be softened. So, let's see what else. So we've got a few different types of ground that it falls on. So you've got the hard, those are the unreceptive hearts that cannot be penetrated. And it's we just want to get in there and we just want to just, why don't you understand? I have people in my life that I'm just how, why, but we don't know. We don't understand other people's thought processes. We don't know the depth of other people's pain and other people's experiences in this life, and how people process things. Like, we just don't know, and we can't judge that. We just, for myself, like, I'm able to just look at people whose hearts are so hard, and I just think to myself, they're filled with so much pain and so much suffering, and they're so disconnected from God. And that is a sad existence. Even though a lot of people can be atheist and not have a belief in God and not turn to God, and God is not even a part of their lives, and they can have happiness, they can be completely perfectly fine, but man, oh, how much more fulfilling life is whenever we're able to, at least in my own understanding and perspective of life. I mean, I don't know. I've never not had God, so I don't know. But I know that He fills my life, that He makes it abundant. Like, I always have someone to turn to. I'm never alone. In all of my life, like, even when I've not had people in my life there to help or whatever, like, I've never been alone. And there is comfort in that, and knowing that I can turn to God for strength and for support and for just that peace that things are going to be okay. I can't imagine not having that. So then there is that stony ground, and this is the shallow hearts. This is where, like, they receive the word and it's so exciting and it's something new, but there's no depth. It doesn't go down into, like, root. It doesn't root. There are no roots. And so when hard things come about, they're not rooted in Jesus Christ. They're caught up in the fire. They're caught up in the excitement, the revival, the energy that's going on. Like, it makes me think about what's going on today with, the death of Charlie Kirk. And then there's been this huge turn to Jesus Christ, and so many people are getting bold in Jesus Christ, and there's this wave of excitement, and people just turning to Him, turning to the scriptures, and we'll see where it goes in the next few months or the next couple of years. Where has this seed been planted into? Are people being caught up in the excitement? When things get really hard, are they really rooted and grounded in Jesus? Or is that going to just fizzle away and they'll just go to the next thing that's exciting? So then the ones that, the thorny ground, it can be, those seeds get planted and it's good, but there's just a lot of weeds and a lot of thorns. They're around people. It's like being in recovery, and but you're still hanging around the same people. You're still going to the same places. You're still doing the same things. And so that seed is good and it wants to grow, but the environment does not feed it. Well, it's suffocating it. And their roots are not deep enough in order for it to grow, and so it just dies away. It dies. It gets suffocated. So, I mean, that's where it's just so important to be around people who are also have good ground and who are seeking that truth and that light, and that are feeding, that we're all growing up together and not trying to suffocate and snuff each other out and put each other down. And, it's just very important as we are tending to our seed and nourishing it, that we're nourishing it with goodness around good people. So then seeds are thrown onto good soil. And these are the hearts that are just open and who are seeking, searching, wanting, open, like looking for more. They're receptive, deep, have surrendered hearts. And this is where you can see people like just soaking in, taking it in, learning, growing, producing good fruits, sharing good fruits. You know that their seed has been planted in good soil. And, it's interesting too that the yield of the harvest, that talks about in the parable, there was a 30-fold yield, which is a good harvest, a 60-fold, which was bountiful, and 100-fold was outstanding. So, it's all good soil, but if you just think about the different harvests, like, some just take it and it's kind of like a harvest that is just for yourself, and and it's growing good and you're good, and like you and God, it's good. And then you have this harvest that begins to grow and expand to your family and your friends and your community. And then you've got this 100-fold that expands not only to yourself and your family and your community, but the world. I mean, it's just like the fruit, and it's your legacy and your posterity, and this fruit that just keeps on and keeps on multiplying. That's what it made me think about. And it's all good. And there's no, it's not like one is better than the other, because it's all producing fruit. It's all producing for God. And even if it's only us, like God is so happy. He's so happy with one, just one returning to him. But then imagine your family also. And then imagine the people around you, that we have an opportunity. We can be that influence in people's lives. So let's see. The coming of God's kingdom in Jesus Christ shatters the world's regular patterns and expectations, and all who hear it and accept the gospel into their lives will bear fruit in an extraordinary way that surpasses human expectation. And I think that that's one of the big things. It's like when we take his word into our hearts, into our lives, and it begins to produce fruit, we can't even, we have no clue. We have no clue what is happening, how that fruit is influencing the people around us. It's really quite amazing, and it surpasses all human expectation. It's not something we can plan and we can control and we can do anything about it. It's God, it's his plan. So the fruitfulness, it depends on our reception, being able to receive it, the depth, how deep it goes into us, and the freedom from competing distractions. We have to have practices in place where we take care of that seed, where, like if you think about it, I don't know if you've ever planted seeds and tried to garden. I have. I love plants and I love to garden. And so I have killed many seeds in my life. They have just not sprung up. And it's not because the seed was not a good seed. It's because either my soil was not good, or I neglected it. I didn't water it enough. It didn't have enough sun. There was something that I was neglecting that killed it. But then at other times, with seeds, like I wanted it to grow so bad. And so I would nurture it, I would watch it, I would water it, make sure it had sun, make sure it had good soil, and I would keep my eye on it to make sure that it would grow up and that it would produce. And that is exactly the same with us. He's trying to teach us that just like these plants, just like these seeds, like that is us. I love that about nature, that anything in nature, we can sit there and look at it and we can ponder on it and relate it to our own lives, and it can teach us. Plants are the greatest teachers. Let's see what else I have. So what practices help you cultivate your heart into good soil so that the word can take root and multiply? Think about that. Think about what practices you have in place that you are tending to your ground, to your heart, so that the word can grow more within you. And not just be words that you read and that are good words and they make you feel good, and they're great, but how are the words changing your life? How are they getting deep into your root and changing you? That's giving you 30, 60, 100-fold. So think about, what kind of soil am I? Have I let my heart grow hard, shallow, or entangled? That's one thing too. I can look back on my life and I can see at different seasons of my life, I've been all of these. I've been all of the grounds. I've have at times had a hard heart and I didn't take in the word. I got offended by the word, or I didn't want it to, because I was comfortable in where I was. I've also had that stony ground, where you get caught up in the excitement of something and you're doing really good in it, and then it fizzles out. That because it wasn't rooted deeper within me. And then I've had seasons in my life where good stuff was coming in, but I was just I was around people that it just wasn't good. That the influence around me just didn't feed it very well. And then I've had seasons in my life where I'm like, oh, just growing so much and producing so much good fruit, and it just feels good. And it's like, how do we get away from that? How do we sometimes how do we know so much and then lose that? And it's because we're not nurturing it consistently, and we get out of our good habits. There's just things in life that can take us away from the practices that keep us rooted in Christ. Even good things. I mean, going on vacation and having fun and stuff, it can stop our daily habits that feed our soul, even though it's a good thing. Being with family, vacationing or wherever, whatever we do. Good things can also keep us from feeding our soul and keeping our grounds fertile and from being able to produce good fruits consistently. I can see it. I can so see it in my life. Just the many times that I've just gotten away from the practices that keep me rooted in Christ. And I pray to God that that does not happen again, that I continue to just stay rooted in Him, and that I don't, that I stay rooted. Let's see what else. So the word is always powerful. It just is. The sower is always faithful. The variable is the soil, the human heart and response. The outcome depends on how the heart receives, roots, and clears away hindrances. So I've got just a couple questions for you, and just to ponder and to think about. Where is your heart like hard ground, pressed down by others' footsteps or old patterns? What stones or wounds need to be dug out so that roots can go deeper? We all have those stones and those wounds. You know, I talk about the oil of Jesus Christ being poured into us. And where do we have stones that are in the way? You know, because his oil can get in there and it can break them apart. But we have to be open to that process of him breaking it apart. So what needs to be dug out so those roots can go deeper? Then what thorns, what worries, distractions, and even good things are crowding out the word in you? And where in your life has God already tilled good ground where fruit is starting to show? That's an awesome thing to think about as well. Where is fruit already beginning to show? So that is the parable of the sower and the harvest. And I would love to hear your thoughts, like if other things come up for you and what you have also learned through your own study of this parable, and anything else that you would like to share. So I'm very excited about being a part of this class, and learning from other women and their experiences, and also my husband. So for the next 6 weeks, I'll be sharing some things from this. It's the Threshold Bible Study Group from the Catholic Faith. Until next time.